You know what's the craziest thing about Pablo Escobar's story? The fact that the world was both terrified of him and fascinated by him at the same time. A man who could start a war with a single phone call or completely change a poor family's life overnight. Today, we're diving into the life of a man whose name, even decades later, still sends shivers down the spines of politicians, cops, and even gangsters, Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria. Pablo was born in 1949 into a poor family in Rio Negro, Colombia. His father was a farmer, and his mother was a schoolteacher. From a young age, you could tell he had a sharp, fearless mind. You know how some people just know from the start what they want? Pablo realized early on that his path would be different. He started by selling smuggled cigarettes, and even stealing tombstones. Yes, he'd steal gravestones, clean them up, and sell them again. Some say he even stole cars and stripped them for cash. That means from the very beginning, he was looking for illegal ways to make money. But things really took off in the late 70s when he got into the cocaine trade. At the time, the United States had a huge appetite for the white powder, and Pablo turned the demand into pure money. At the peak of his empire, Escobar was making around $420 million every single day. The Medellín Cartel, which he founded, controlled 80% of the global cocaine market. Do you know what that means? It means that out of every 4 lines of cocaine consumed anywhere in the world, 3 came directly or indirectly from Pablo. But it wasn't just about the money. Pablo was, in a way, a Robin Hood for the poor neighborhoods. He built houses, soccer fields, schools. Even today, many people in Colombia still remember him as a hero because he really did change their lives. Of course, it wasn't all out of kindness. These acts built him a human shield, because whenever the government tried to arrest him, thousands of poor locals would stand between him and the police. Few people know that Pablo even entered politics. In 1982, he became a member of the Colombian Congress. Imagine that, one of the biggest drug lords in history, wearing a suit and speaking behind a government podium. But his enemies, especially the Minister of Justice, started exposing his criminal past. The result? The minister was assassinated in broad daylight. That's when the world realized Escobar wasn't just a drug dealer, he was an untouchable king. Pablo didn't just fight with politicians, he was at war with the police, the army, and even rival cartels. It's said he was directly responsible for the deaths of over 4,000 people, including politicians, judges, police officers, journalists, and even ordinary citizens. One of his most infamous acts was the bombing of Avianca Flight 203, which killed 110 people, just because he thought one of his political rivals was on board. But Pablo's life was also filled with bizarre moments. For example, once, while on the run with his family, he burned $2 million in cash just to keep his daughter warm in the freezing mountains. And since he had more money than he could store in safes, he would bury it in fields. Experts believe hundreds of millions of his dollars are still buried somewhere in Colombia, waiting to be found. In 1991, when the US pushed hard for his extradition, Escobar voluntarily surrendered, but with one condition: he would build his own prison. The result was a luxury compound called La Cathedral, complete with a soccer field, a barbecue area, and even a waterfall. But soon, he continued running his drug empire from inside, and even killed people there. When the government found out, they decided to raid the prison. But before the forces arrived, Escobar escaped. But on December 2, 1993, just one day after his 44th birthday, the police tracked him down in a middle-class neighborhood in Medellín. After a rooftop chase, he was shot 3 times, once in the leg, once in the back, and once fatally in the head. To this day, no one knows for sure whether that last bullet came from the police, or from Pablo himself to avoid being taken alive. After his death, the Medellín Cartel collapsed, but the drug trade in Colombia never stopped, it just changed shape. Today, smaller gangs have taken over, but none have reached Escobar's level of power. Pablo loved soccer and even had his own team. He was obsessed with luxury, massive estates, a private zoo with elephants, giraffes, and hippos. And here's the crazy part: some of those hippos are still living in Colombia today, and they've actually become an environmental problem. In the end, Pablo Escobar was both a hero and a monster. To some, a savior of the poor. To others, a ruthless killer. But one thing's for sure: his name is forever etched into the history of crime and politics. If you want to hear more stories like this about other legendary criminals, make sure to subscribe to the channel and stick around for our upcoming videos, because I'm going to tell you stories that even Hollywood wouldn't dare to show.